PopCultureZone.com is an online shop focusing on hot new comics, including exclusive and incentive variants, CGC graded comics, and tons of other inventory, including pop culture toys and other collectibles, all at low and competitive prices. PopCultureZone.com ships all over the US, and if you are buying raw comics, they offer flat rate shipping of only $4.99. That's right, $4.99. Absolute craziness, right? And there's no taxes included, excluding New Jersey. Pop Culture Zone is also on eBay, where they hold a 100% positive feedback rating with over 8,000 completed transactions for this year alone. Make sure to check out the link to their website below, as well as their eBay link, so be sure to give them a follow there as well. What is going on, everyone? Chris with Journals, Comics, and Pop Culture. I'm so excited to do this video today. We're looking at the top 10 undervalued second appearances, folks. If you aren't subscribed to the channel, please take some time to do so. Check out all the awesome links below. As usual, for my top list, the lower we get in number, the higher these books have increased in value over the last 5 years. We're going to be looking at current fair market value. We're going to be looking at fair market value from 5 years ago, and we're going to be looking at the plus minus return on investment. All right, who's ready? I know I am. Let's get into book number 10, Star Wars Darth Vader. Number 4, this is the second appearance of Dr. APHRA. So before I talk about this book a little bit, let's look at these numbers, because there was only one on the sales census for this book in a CGC. That was a 9.8 that sold for $55 this last year. Crazy, right? Very, very affordable. High raw, $24. And I'm going to tell you what high raw is again. That means it's the highest dollar amount sold. It doesn't pertain to grade at all. But with this book being a newer book, keep in mind that it's most likely for this one a decently higher grade. Average raw is still sitting at $13 though. So look, Star Wars Mania, I talked about it over the last year plus, and it's still there. Dr. APHRA's first appearance has been doing big things. I think this book is heavily overlooked. We always talk about the second best things. The market, collectors and hobbyists are really educating themselves to origins, to first covers, to second appearances, to first team ups. All of these things are becoming more and more important to collectors. So this is one that's extremely affordable right now. If you could go still find this book in your back issue bins or whatnot, it's very low risk. And I think it's a character that this character has to show up in Disney Plus or in a Star Wars film or something, whether it's live action or animated, one way or the other in the near future. So definitely happy to see a Star Wars book on this list. We're going to move on to number 9. This is Amazing Spider-Man number 9 from 2014. This is the second appearance of Spider-GWEN. Spider-GWEN has been getting hot. All right, most of us know that. And this is another one that's just, as a second appearance, hasn't been getting a lot of traction. We have the Into the Spider-Verse number 2 creeping up on us. It's almost here, folks. Time is just moving by so fast. When we get a trailer for that, we're going to see that the key books around these characters increase even more. And we know that there's always the capability of Spider-GWEN showing up in the MCU at some point in time in the future. So let's look at these numbers. Current CGC 9.0 fair market value. That was the highest one I could find. $100 in a recent sale earlier this year. Nothing from any years before. It's crazy, right? High raw, $38. Average raw, $25. So again, a very decently affordable book that I personally, in my humble opinion, believes has a lot of wiggle room for that ceiling to climb. All right, folks, before I dive into any more books, I'm going to throw out my disclaimer, as I always do. I am not here to tell you to go buy any of these books. I want you all to be educated and make sound decisions in your purchase making. I'm here to give you facts, data, sprinkled in with my personal opinion on the matters of these books. And I want you all to, again, make those sound decisions. If you aren't willing to take the risk of the investment, or if you don't have any type of love for these characters, then maybe the book isn't for you. All right, everyone, we are moving on to number 8 on the list, and that is Journey into Mystery number 124. This is the second appearance of Hercules. So, we have had a lot of spec around Hercules. We have Ares announced for Thor Love and Thunder. This should, well, I don't know what the proper wording to mean. Could be right behind, should be right behind, possibly, maybe right behind. We don't know, but we like to speculate, don't we? Let's look at these numbers. Current CGC 9.4 fair market value sitting at $373. 5 years ago, $311. That's a 5-year increase of 20%, so it's still moved up some, but not too much going on here. So again, this may be a good time to look into this book, because if we do get a Hercules in the MCU, okay, let's look at this high raw, $60. So again, for an early Silver Age book, don't expect that to be a very high grade, maybe a mid-grade, higher mid-grade. Average raw sitting at $34. So again, though, still a decently affordable book. I am absolutely optimistic about seeing Hercules, especially with them bringing Ares in. We shall see, right? All right, moving on to number 7 on the list, Wonder Woman 205. This is the second appearance of Nubia. So a lot of this for me is what's going on in the comic books, and I always talk about this. We know the state of the DCEU and the disarray there. We had a good movie in the Suicide Squad, James Gunn coming out doing his thing, but can DC and Warner Brothers keep up with the connectivity and that connected universe like Marvel's done? I don't know, but still, key DC books don't need movie hype to continue to increase in value, right? But hey, there's already been a rumor, no type of real confirmation, about Nubia possibly showing up in the third installment of the Wonder Woman movies. We don't know, but let's look at these numbers. Current CGC 9.8 fair market value, sitting at $450. I couldn't find any farther back for 2018, so we're looking at a 3-year increase. That book sold, or the fair market value 3 years ago was about $360. So over the last 3 years, it's a 25% increase in value. High raw sitting at 165, average raw 88. So again, this is going to be probably a harder one to find in those higher grades. The nice white cover, early 20-cent Bronze Age. Again, I'm specking on Nubia. I still am on the hunt for a 204, Nubia's first appearance. But again, second best thing, right? All right, moving on. Fantastic Four 53. This is the second appearance of Black Panther. It's also the first appearance of Ulysses Claw. So you add that in there, it gives a little extra oomph to this book. This book, again, another one that, in my humble opinion, and I don't use the term undervalued lightly, folks. I think people throw that around way too much. But when I say undervalued, I'm really looking at the fact that there isn't a majority consensus understanding the key value of this book that's bringing in demand that would be there if that consensus was where it probably naturally should be. We know how Black Panther has gained popularity ever since Chadwick Boseman's portrayal in the MCU. So this book has increased, but not as much as FF52, his first appearance, because that book has just been blown out of the water. So let's look at these numbers. Current CGC 8.5 fair market value, $375. 5 years ago. And remember, 5 years ago is when we first got introduced to Black Panther. So this book probably may have even gotten a little bit of a bump then if we compared it to, say, 7 years ago or so. But still, it was sitting at $245. That's a 5-year increase of 54%. High raw, though, was sitting at $215. Average raw, $61. So as someone who bought this book, I think a few years back, I know for a fact that this book has been moving, but I'm surprised it hasn't been moving as fast as I would have expected it. But still, even with that said, I expect this book to continue to increase in value, especially in this market, especially with Black Panther 2, Wakanda Forever, coming out, in the hype built around Black Panther in the Disney Plus, with their Disney Plus show as well. Lots of good things for Black Panther, even though, unfortunately, Chadwick, rest in peace, is not with us. I think Marvel Studios is going to continue to do huge things that is going to continue to make the Black Panther character and mantle very, very relevant, folks. All right, we are halfway through this list, and before we get to the top 5 books, I have to remind everyone that if you are looking for comic book supplies, check out bcwsupplies.com and use the discount code JOURNOS to receive 10% off of your order. You can use that code as many times as you want. It never expires, no matter how small your order, no matter how big your order. Their link is below in the description as well. Check them out, use that code, and save. All right, let's get into book number 5. This is Power Man and Iron Fist, number 66. This is the second appearance of Sabretooth. So this book has really picked up steam over the last couple of years, because this book was really, there was probably a very lack of education in terms of collectors for this book being the second appearance of Sabretooth. Let's look at these numbers, though. Current CGC 9.8 fair market value sitting at $250. That's a 9.8, though. So for a second appearance Bronze Age book of such an iconic character, solid in my humble opinion. 5 years ago, $160. That's a 5-year increase of 56%. High raw sitting at $40. Average raw sitting at $22. Again, this is one that I think is going to continue to increase in value, and it's also one that you may be able to find in some back issue bins. I found this book for $1 maybe 3 years ago now. So again, times have changed, but still, and it wasn't, near mint, but that was a steal of a find to find in the dollar bins. So another one, and we know that, we know the legacy of Sabretooth and Wolverine, and who knows what can happen in the MCU. All right, moving on to number 4 on the list. Spider-Man again. This is Amazing Spider-Man number 51. This is the second appearance of Kingpin, but it's also his first cover appearance, and I think that has been overlooked for a very long time. I know that his first appearance, ASM 50, is such an iconic cover, but Kingpin's not on it. This is his first cover appearance, and again, when you look at the way collectors are demanding those second best things now, this book has been doing solid things on the market, especially with ASM 50 really blowing up and getting out of reach for a lot of collectors. Let's look at these numbers. Current CGC 8.5 fair market value, $395. 5 years ago, sitting at about $161. That's a 5-year increase of 139%. That is huge. High raw sold for $500, guys. I'm going to assume that had to be like a high grade. Average raw still sitting right under that $100 mark at $97. So look, we have a lot of speculation going around with Kingpin right now, coming into the MCU, or coming back into the MCU, so to say. Vincent D'Onofrio maybe, coming back into that role. Who knows? I hope to see that happen. But this book is one that I think is going to boom if we do see Kingpin in the MCU, and especially if we see Vincent D'Onofrio continue to play that role. All right, folks, top 3. Coming in at number 3, Batman 235, second appearance of Ra's al Ghul. This character, man, who's with me? Batman and Spider-Man, they both have the greatest supervillains for DC and Marvel, respectively. And it's not that Ra's al Ghul gets pushed to the back burner necessarily, but when you have characters like the Joker and Penguin and Riddler and so forth, it's tough to compete with those. And man, just for me, that's my humble opinion, Ra's al Ghul needs more love, even though there's a ton of story arcs that are just classic at this point. You got this book right here, and you mix it with an amazing Neil Adams cover. I think this book is definitely undervalued. Current CGC 8.5 fair market value sitting at $239. 5 years ago, $85. That's a 5-year increase of 181%. So I say this all the time, folks. DC key books do not need movie hype for them to continue to increase in value. But can you imagine if Warner Brothers got their cinematic universe in order? Oh my goodness, what it would do to these books. This book has been booming without any of that. High raw sitting at $54. Again, doesn't mean high grade. Average raw sitting at $32. I still think this is a very affordable book. And if you are a Batman fan and you are interested and willing to take those risks of investing in this book, very low risk in my humble opinion. All right, folks, coming in at number 2, ROM 32. This is the second appearance of Rogue in the first cover appearance of Rogue. But wait, it's not that cut and dry. It is technically tied with Uncanny X-Men 158. They supposedly came out not only the same month, not only the same week, but the same day. So why did I pick this book? Well, here's the thing. I do feel that the ROM book gets overlooked more. All right. And once people get hype to the ROM book, I think it's going to continue to increase. I've been on a Rogue kick for a while, folks. If you watch my videos, I've been talking about Rogue a lot. But let's look at these numbers because people are already hopping on the Rogue bandwagon here. Current CGC 9.8 fair market value, $257. I couldn't find anything before 2018, so we're looking at 3 years ago. $80. That's a 221% increase in sales. That's more, or excuse me, increase in percentage. That's more than tripled in value, folks. High raw, $61. I'm looking at that as probably being a close to near mint high grade. Average raw, though, still sitting at around $9. This book is still out there. This book is still sitting in back issue bins. This book is still being sold for an extremely affordable price. And if we get Rogue in the MCU, if we get Rogue's backstory and origin story as it should be, taking Carol Danvers' powers. That's all I got to say, folks. That's all I got to say. Rogue has a lot of books. We know that Avengers Annual 10 doesn't get the love that it deserves because, oh, she's not on the cover and this and that. And oh, you know, Marvel Superheroes 11 is supposed to be her first appearance, but the Miss Marvel run got canceled and it didn't get released till the 90s and all this stuff. But there's so many books out there, so many early cover appearances, so many early appearances that I think have extreme potential. With that said, folks, we have one more book on the list today. Drumroll, please. Brrr. Coming in at number 1 is Amazing Spider-Man, number 315. The second appearance of Venom. Now, here's the thing. He's on the cover. Well, kind of doesn't count, right? What do you call this, folks? What do we call this? Is it a first cover cameo appearance? Because it's just his little headshot there, right? Because we know that 316 is technically the first cover appearance of Venom where he's there actually on the cover tackling Spider-Man. But this book, I'm sorry, hasn't got the love it's deserved for a very long time. But let's look at what it's been doing. Current CGC 9.8 fair market value sitting at $365. 5 years ago, $68. That's a 5-year increase in value of 437%. What? Finally, guys, finally. High raw sitting at $84, average raw sitting at $32. So, look, I called this list top 10 undervalued second appearances. This one might be peaking right now, and I would be lying if I wasn't to say this book might cool off a little bit, all right? We have Venom 2 coming out right now. You never know. It's not technically a Marvel movie, Marvel Studios, MCU movie, although, you know, there's more hints at all these things connecting somehow in the near future. It's a Sony movie, and although number one was a huge success for Sony, we don't know how the audience is going to take to this. And once that movie comes out and dies down a little bit, this book can see some cool off periods. But what do I always talk about? I talk about thresholds and new floors. Even though this book may go through a natural dip, a natural ebb and flow period that's healthy on the market, I still believe this book will continue to increase for the long term. So do I still feel that it's undervalued in terms of where it's going to be at 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 years from now? Absolutely. But from my humble opinion to you all, be careful investing in this book because it's blown up so much over the last 5 years. Be smart with it. Sit on it. Be patient. I always talk about patience being the key. Let the movie come out, right? Let the movie come out. Let it come to video on demand and all those things, and see if this can drop a little bit and you can get a nice high raw grade. And here's another thing. Don't just go fetching for that high 9.8, spending $300 to $400. You know, try to get your hands on a solid high grade raw, maybe spend a little money to press it up and see if you can send it into CGC, CBCS, EGS to get that nice 9.8 grade. Just food for thought for all of you out there. But I'm so happy to see this book doing what it's been doing over the last few years. So with that said, folks, let me know what you thought of the list today. Let me know how many you have in your collection. How many are you guys hunting right now? And let me know if there's some other awesome under the radar second appearances that you thought you should have seen on this list.